I was recently sharing with a friend of mine, colleague, about creating a podcast. And it's so funny. I think that like when you hear the word podcast or you think about somebody creating a podcast, you probably think whatever it is that you've seen before as it relates to podcast, where it's like a studio or a home office or whatever. But I was telling my colleague, I'm like, yeah, I record podcasts wherever I'm at. Like right now I am in my home office. I have my workout mat next to me and my cat who thinks that she owns the workout mat. But honestly, it's been everywhere. Like waiting for my son to get out of tutoring or waiting for my daughter to finish up her dance. And like a lot of times I'm recording podcast in the car because that is just how life is. And my intention for my life is going with the flow of things. And I've really been thinking a lot about that recently. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and I have a little bit more experience to pull from. I don't know. But one thing that I heard a couple years ago at a leadership training was hold it loosely. And I remember they even had us do this exercise where we would like close our fist and where they'd be like, that's holding it tightly. And then they would be like, relax your hand, open your fist. And watch how your veins and everything in your arm, all the way up to your shoulders, all the way down to your toes, relaxes. And when you hold things loosely, see what's possible, see what can happen. And I, like, no joke, was sitting in the conference room, like, opening up both my hands over and over, like, I don't understand this. So I was trying to, like, make sense of it. But it stuck with me. It was probably the biggest takeaway from that whole weekend was, like, this concept of holding things loosely. And for me, specifically, what it means to hold things loosely is not that I don't care. And I'm trying to get away from using that phrase. Like somebody says, where do you want to eat? I'm like, I don't care. I really don't care. Like as long as there's not mushrooms on my plate, I will eat anything, anywhere. I don't like mushrooms. They're disgusting. They're a fungus. Why do we eat funguses? Okay, that's a side note. Let me get back on track. But like for real, like I genuinely don't care. Like I'm not really a picky person. And like as long as everybody's happy and good, I'm happy and good. And like that right there, that's holding it loosely. Because as a mom, as a supervisor, as all the things, like I can easily go in with so much expectations of how things should look. And I hate the word should, but I'm using it right now because I battle with this daily, like things should look this way at work with my team. Things should look this way with the kids in their school and all the other things. Things should look this way in the community, at my son's high school, at my daughter's dance. Like things should look this way. And I battle that internally. And when I let it go and I'm just like opening up my hands as a metaphor, a physical metaphor, I'm holding it loosely without putting my expectations on other people, other organizations, or other situations. And it's a challenge. Like, it's really a challenge. So how does this relate to me right now? Like, going back to this new part, and if you've listened to previous episodes and you've heard me talk about my son who's right now in basic training, in fact, he graduates 2 weeks from today. Oh my God, like, so crazy and so amazing. And I can't wait just to like hold him. So like as a military mom, like it wasn't my goal or it wasn't my plan to have him join the military. Believe it or not, like from the time the kids were little, I'm like, do what you want. Like you can work at Walmart, you can work at McDonald's, like you can be an astronaut, like do what you want, do what makes your heart happy. That's always been my go-to. That's one area that I really have never held very tightly. And now looking at him turn into this almost adult, he's only 17, but almost adult, and getting to live in the outcome of the choices that he's made is like such a beautiful thing to witness. And it's so amazing. And when I think about holding it loosely, it's like as a parent, as a mom, and now as a military mom, it's like I don't want to have my own expectations and how I think things should look put on any of my children. Because I learned from my experiences growing up, and I learned from my choices and living in those outcomes. and they get to do the same. And that's probably like such a I don't know, learning curve for me as a parent, because when I think about like, oh, I learned this from having this kind of relationship, so you should do this, baby, so that way you don't have the same pain I did. But that's taking away from their own experience. And I can share my experiences with them, of course, to like fill their knowledge bank. But let's be real, like most kids are going to want to have their own experiences and learn from their own outcomes, because our perspective, my perspective, is exactly my perspective. What I learned is what I learned. It's not what somebody else learned. And it's always going to be different for each person because we're all different. So for me, when I go back to thinking about holding it loosely, like even something as simple as how the day is going to go with my team, how the day is going to go with my kids, and like when other things happen, like holding it loosely and not being so attached to how I think it should look. Because from my own experience, when I put those strong expectations of how things should look on my team, on my children, on organizations, on my community, there's always pushback. There's always so much pushback and resistance because nobody likes to be told what to do. I don't know if y'all knew that, but no one likes to be told what to do. I don't even like to be told what to do. Like, I really hate when people tell me what to do. I'm like, bro, you don't know my life, so don't tell me what to do, you know? And like, we all have maybe some part of that where we don't like to be told what to do. So going in, relaxing my hand all the way down to my toes, all the way up to my shoulders, like feeling like, okay, however today goes is how today is going to go. Things are going to happen that are outside of my control. What is in my control is how I respond to those situations, and the choices that I make moment to moment speak to who I am as a person and how I stay true to that. Holding it loosely is what I expect and what I think should happen. I can have my beliefs and my expectations, of course, but I can hold them loosely, not to drop them or not to not care, but just not to get too attached to one specific outcome, because all the different outcomes are just that, they're outcomes. They're not right or wrong. They're just outcomes from what happened, the choices that I make, the choices that other people make, and we get to learn from that. And one more thing like I wanted to share is thinking about holding it loosely and learning from our outcomes that stem from our choices that we make. I recently was told, well, it was a while ago, from a colleague about how, honestly, I can approach things by just educating others. And she was sharing it with me in relation to a project at work that we were working on. And I was getting so frustrated because I was like, if they could just see it our way, it would be fine. Like, why are they resisting so much? And like, the policy is black and white, you know, why can't they see this is going to help us? And she looked at me and she said, you know, Chris, it might just be that they get to be educated. It might just be that, you know, they just simply don't know your perspective. And maybe you can educate them, and coming from a place of, let me share this with you versus let me tell you how it's going to be, which is really easy for me to do. So when I changed my approach in this project and when I presented it to leadership, coming from a place of like, let me share this experience with you and why this policy is so important to me. And it was giving them a lesson, not in a like, I'm going to teach you a lesson. Not like that. But like teaching them a lesson of like, hey, this is what could be possible with a policy like this. And then you fast forward to yesterday and I was able to brief a policy proposal to the Board of Education for Student Services for our district and the principal over the high school. And at the end of the presentation, I was briefing a policy on how they could support children who want to join the military at 17. And as I was briefing the policy, afterwards, the director said to me, he was like, you know, in my 25 years in working for Department of Education, I've never had a parent come to me with a solution and a proposal and a policy and a packet of how we can help other children and not just their own specific child. And as I was sitting there at the table, I was thinking back to like what my colleague had told me about educating. And I'm like, wow, we can get so much further. Like I can get so much further with the ideas that I have when I come at it from an approach of like, let me share this with you. You can decide not to use it. It's totally fine. Like I can't control your actions. That's where I hold things loosely. I can't control the outcome of what others choose to do, but I can choose what I decide to do and how I decide to be and what I decide to share. And I guess I have one more thing. I thought about this on my walk today. I walk and it helps me think through things. I walk almost every morning. But I was thinking about how a lot of times we approach situations, or I approach situations where I'm sharing new ideas. And actually just yesterday, I had another colleague share with me at work, like, you give voice to others who don't have a voice. And that's a common phrase. And I don't want to diminish that phrase or undermine it or whatever. Like, I don't want to make it like it's not right. It's totally amazing phrase. And I appreciated her compliment. And at the same time, like, I guess maybe I don't feel that I give a voice to those who don't have a voice. What I believe is that we're all given things to say, and it's up to us to choose to say it, to act on it, how we feel is right for us, and how that impacts others can be held loosely. So maybe the individuals that were impacted by this policy change at work, which is what my colleague was referencing, maybe the words were just given to me and I felt the courage or the power or the love or whatever it was to act on it, to say something about it until it was actually coming to life. Like the policy came to life after like 4.5 years, the policy finally came to life. But that was acting on the words that were coming to me. And maybe it's not about others not having a voice or words. Maybe it's just that the universe or whoever thinks that this person can work on this person can do this person can say this. So it's about stepping into who we're meant to be. And when the words come up for us, it's up to me, it's up to you, it's up to everyone to say something, to act on it, to make a choice, and to live in the outcome from whatever it was that we decided to act on.